Hi, my name is Ivy Comer. I'm a student at the University of Tennessee, and today I'm going to be presenting my research on applying principal component analysis to ordinary chondrites and S-type asteroids. I worked on this research with my mentor, Dr. Lindsay, over the past spring and summer of 2023. So how I'm going to present this is I'm going to go through these three columns top to bottom. I will read through the introduction so that we kind of have a grounding of vocabulary and where I'm coming from with it, so everything is familiar. But of course, I hope that you can pause and fast forward if you would rather read through it yourself, of course. But after reading through these, I'll go through the actual figures myself. I'll start with the introduction, move into the sample that we used, and then previously how we've analyzed samples of these ordinary chondrites, and then moving on to what we're doing now and the results for it and how we're hoping to move forward. Excuse me. So, introducing this now. S-type asteroids are the remnants of terrestrial planet formation and have been shown to be linked to ordinary chondrites, OCs, and their subtypes. Since they have remained unaltered since their formation 4.6 billion years ago, understanding the composition of these can give us valuable insight to our solar system's formation. We can determine their composition through a spectral analysis of two broad absorption features centered near 1 micron, which would be here, and 2 micron. These we refer to as band 1 and band 2. That can be seen on this figure 1. In the project, we explore using spectral principal component analysis PCA to determine chondrite subtypes and mineralogical composition. Here we apply PCA to a set of 48 ordinary chondrites presented in Dunn et al. 2010. This we also refer to as the Dunn sample in a less professional sense, I guess. Our goal is to better our current taxonomic classification systems for S-type asteroids using the mineralogical information that may be retrieved by using PCA. These subgroups consist of H's, L's, and LL chondrites, which refer to high, low, and low iron content in them. So, moving on to figure 1 and figure 2. Figure 1, we're looking at the average HL and L spectras. So the variation in these that we're seeing is due to the iron content, olivine, and pyroxenes, and also the olivine ratio. So we can see that H's are this red here, L's is the one that is green right here, and LL's are going to be the blue. Looking at figure 2, this is the band 1 mean subtracted spectra. What we're really doing here is we're taking wavelength channels and comparing the data to see where our strongest wavelength channels have, or where the wavelength channels have the most prominent sources of variance. And we can see this huge range here in variance around 1 micron, and we also see that that's where band 1 is, which would tell us that that might be where a lot of our variance is coming from whenever comparing this data of the 48 spectra. But we can also see where there's little variance. So, moving on, previous work that has been used to analyze these chondrites has been with band parameter analysis, and we can see in Gaffey et al. 1993, this plot that was made. I'm going to direct your eyes to this boot here, this boot shape, which is called the ordinary chondrite boot, which you can see that there are fair boundaries for the H's, L's, and LL's. We also see this in this plot here for figure 4. We can see that there are very fair boundaries for H's, L's, and LL's, but there's still decent overlap, and some of it's not even overlap. Some of these L's are entirely out of the range of its boundary. So what we're hoping to do with PCA is confine the samples a little more to better boundaries, and also to be able to know what this information is telling us about the actual samples. What is this variation correlating to? Where are we getting it from? Because we can't really do that with band parameter analysis. So moving on to PCA, I am going to read through the introduction, of course. Principal component analysis, PCA, is a method of reducing the dimensionality of a data set involving the linear coordinate transformations to minimize the variance. So the first axis that is transformed is going to be referred to as principal component 1, PC1, which contains the most prominent sources of variance. This can proceed by rotating another axis that correlates the data to the next sources of variance, which would be PC2. This can move on to PC3, 4, 5, whatever you would like, but the first few PCs account for the majority of variance in the data. And by configuring the data's variance in this way, PCA can re-express high-dimensional data in a way that can reveal correlations. So, with that being said, let's look into some of the results that we've gotten so far in Figure 5 and 6. So, Figure 5 is going to be PC1 on the x-axis versus PC2 on the y, and Figure 6 is going to be the PC2 on the x-axis, while PC3 is going to be on the y. So, whenever we look at these, you can see on PC1, this x-axis here, that there's not really any boundaries to H's, L's, and LL's. It's all spread across this range. But whenever we look at PC2, we can see fairly distinct boundaries here that's separating the H's, L's, and LL's. And whenever we also look at PC2 versus PC3, again, PC3, there's not really any groupings here. It's all spread across the range, but whenever we look at PC2, it shows again that this pattern where there's a division among the H's, L's, and LL's, which tells us that PC2, there's something, the source from that variance in PC2, that second strongest source of variance, there's something to that is dividing these subgroups. So moving forward, we're going to continue using different samples and trying to improve on the efficiency of them, of the actual PCA using it, and also consistency. So, and again, we use that as a way to classify the chondrites. So we're really just trying to, that is the main goal, is trying to better classify these. I appreciate you all joining in and listening to me a lot. I'm excited to also look in the journal and see what other people have presented. And yeah, thank you.